Do I have any nominations?
I'd like to nominate yourself, Councillor Bairn, sorry.
And I second that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, introductions. My name's Louise Bown. I am member for Radipole, which is a suburb of Weymouth. I'd like to ask my fellow committee members to introduce themselves.
I'm Councillor Les Fry, representing Dorchester West.
And my name's Derek Beer and I represent Shaftesbury.
I would now like the council officers to introduce themselves.
John Miles, Democratic Services. I'll be taking the minutes for the meeting. Thank you.
I'm Phil Crowther. I'm the subcommittee's legal advisor.
I'm Elaine Tibble, also from Democratic Services.
Thank you. My name is Aileen Powell. I'm the licensing team leader and I wrote the report.
Thank you. If you didn't hear that online, that's Matthew from Democratic Services. Okay, do we have any apologies, John?
Apologies for absence were received from Councillor Jill Haynes and Matt Bell, substituted by Councillors Derek Beer and Les Fry.
I beg your pardon, I've done things out of order. So the people that are here, I need you to introduce yourselves. So people from Majestic.
And respective Majestic, you've got myself, which is Graham Cushion. I'm a solicitor from Poppleston Allen, representing the company. And to my right is Emily Onions, who is the proposed designated premises supervisor at this point, but actually the regional manager for this proposed site and various others in the local area.
Thank you for that. Would you like to introduce yourself, sir?
My name's Councillor Simon Wheeler. I'm from Wimborne Minster Town Council.
Thank you. Okay. Now, declarations of interest. I need to declare that many decades ago, I used to work for Majestic Wine. I finished working for Majestic in 1995, and I no longer have contact with my colleagues or the company. It was a long time ago. Does anybody else have any declarations of interest?
No, thank you, Chairman. No declaration of interest.
Okay, thank you. Okay, do we have any urgent business?
There are no urgent items for the meeting.
Thank you very much. So now I'm going to ask the report author to introduce the report.
Thank you, Chair. So this is an application for consideration of a new premises licence in Wimborne for a Majestic wine store. The objections are not against the granting of the premises licence completely, but mainly relate to the hours that have been applied for. Many of the objections relate to hours that nearby Majestic stores close. And whilst these stores may only operate to the hours stated in the objections, excuse me, I have checked the licence registers for BCP Council and the New Forest and requested a copy of the licence for the Salisbury store. The pool store and the Salisbury store are both licensed Monday to Saturday, 8 a.m. to 23 p.m, and on Sunday, 1000 hours to 22:30. The Dorchester store is also licensed Monday to Saturday, 8 till 23, and Sunday, 10 till 2200. And the Christchurch and Lymington stores are licensed every day from 8 o'clock in the morning to 2300. You will need to weigh up the arguments on both sides and take the steps that you believe are appropriate for the promotion of the four licensing objectives. Your determination should be evidence-based, justified as being appropriate for the promotion of the licensing objectives and proportionate to what it is intended to achieve. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I personally have no questions. I think that was very clear and the paperwork has been very clear. Anybody, any questions from the rest of my team?
No, thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Majestic, do you have any questions?
No, thank you.
And Mr. Wheeler, do you have any questions?
Not at this time, thank you.
Thank you. I am now going to ask Majestic, Mr. Cushion, would you like to make your submission, please?
Yes, thank you very much. I'll keep this as brief as I possibly can. You've obviously already heard and indeed undoubtedly read within the public document pack that the application here is from 8 a.m. until 11 p.m. daily. It's purely for off sales, no on sales required. You probably all know what a Majestic wine warehouse is. There's one pretty close by, which we just wandered to on the way up. I mean, the company's got 208 of them now, and they've been going since 1980, obviously including the local one. So what we're applying for here is the same as the last two that were mentioned very kindly by Aileen, and very similar, with a slight exception of Sundays, to the other two that were mentioned at the outset. Our submission is that the style of operation that we are is in no way a threat to the licensing objectives. I mean, that's most strongly indicated in some ways by the fact that this is the very first time we've ever had to come to a subcommittee hearing for the grant of one of these. And also the fact that with 208 stores, we deal with the licensing for all of them. I can honestly say, hand on heart, that we've never had to deal with any form of enforcement issue. And I've discussed at length with Emily. I said, look, you're a business. You know, you must have some sort of issues that you have to deal with, as any commercial entity does. And she said that the most exciting thing that she'd ever had to deal with from a commercial, from a sort of nuisance perspective, was a problem with an alarm system, which happens with just about every business where they were getting some complaints and got it sorted out. Never anything remotely related to the licensing objectives. That's probably because of the nature of their business. The vast majority of transactions which take place within a Majestic are the purchase of multiple bottles of wine. This is alluded to, I think you'll have seen in the document pack, we did write to the local residents who'd made representations explaining a bit more detail about how the store operates, the number of customers that they get in, the average spend, and so on and so forth. But the reality is that most people go into Majestic to stock up for the holidays or for a party that they're having at home or whatever, and they spend at least tens of pounds, if not hundreds of pounds. And numerically, there are very few transactions during the day. It's quite difficult for us to work out exactly how many, because the way the system works of recording these things also includes online transactions and phone-in transactions. But, you know, you are talking, the busiest time for any store is between mid-morning and late afternoon, early evening, coinciding with people finishing work. And that's about the height of the excitement. When you get on into the later part of the evening, local stores, which Emily's been kind enough to analyse, after 7 o'clock, there's maybe one person that comes in to buy something, and that's about it. So in terms of noise disturbance and car door slamming and all of that sort of stuff that's alluded to in the representations, we just simply don't think that our business model is such that that we're going to cause any issue in that respect. Our price point is also such that whilst you can buy an individual bottle of wine, we're not really conducive to reactionary purchases of that nature, because you know, you get a quite heavily discounted rate for buying at least 6 bottles of something rather than just buying the one, and that's what the vast majority of customers do. Again, an analysis of the data, we were struggling to find any occasion when somebody had simply come in and bought a bottle of wine, and I think there may be concerns that that's what would happen in a town centre, but we don't see that elsewhere, and we can't see any reason to see it here. There was a passing reference to deliveries, noisy deliveries. Just to tie that one off, our deliveries take place virtually without exception between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. So right in the middle of the working day, not at anti-social hours. Yes, as I say, really we're seeing very little in the way that we operate, evidenced by the lack of problems that we have across the estate, to suggest that there's going to be any undermining of the licensing objectives. We're aware of our locale. There's a Wetherspoons opposite us in Wimborne. There's other restaurants in the road that trade till sort of 11:30, midnight, maybe even 1 o'clock at the weekends, although we're not sure about that, but certainly later than our terminal hour proposed. I think we've made it quite clear in the communications with the local residents that we are not intending to trade until 11 p.m. 7 days a week. It's simply not the case. We will trade very, very similarly to the others in the area. It's simply company policy to apply for these standard hours that we have elsewhere, to ensure flexibility in case there's a local demand for a wine tasting event that goes to that slightly later terminal hour. But even that is people, you know, coming along and getting tiny little sample-sized drinks, and most of them drive. It's not a booze up. And obviously in the locality as well, there are much cheaper off-sales options around, again, sort of dealing with the aspect of what people potentially coming in seeking to carry on their night out and take something away to drink immediately. It just doesn't happen. These people would stick out rather like a sore thumb compared to the typical clientele that's received. There are options in the town centre, Morrison's and the Co-op, that would much better serve that particular need. So our application is as it is. We ask you to consider it. We can't see a good reason why we shouldn't be granted it the way it is. You have our assurance that it's not going to be trading until 11 o'clock, 7 days a week. None of the stores do, and there's no plan to change that. We're just seeking the flexibility as outlined by me just now, but also in the letter that we wrote to the local residents. Unless you've any questions, I don't really have anything to add at this stage.
I've just got one question. So you've talked about wholesaling wine. What about beer? Tell me about the quantities of beer that you might sell.
It's all multi-packs. You can't go in and buy individual ones. I think the smallest multi-pack available is a 4-pack.
Thank you. That answers my question. Have we got any other questions?
Thank you. That's very good. So tell me, what sort of problems have you had at other stores after 8 o'clock at night with antisocial behaviour? People coming in causing problems within the store or trying to get a few cans of beer? I'm being very general there, but you know where I'm going.
There's been, obviously, Emily deals with the local area and beyond. Is it 36 she looks after? She looks after 36 stores. On her patch, she's not aware of any issues such as that. The reality is that all of the staff are comprehensively trained on licensing law, including a great deal of care being taken on refusals, and they maintain a register of refusals as well if that's necessary to do it. So in other words, you're not going to serve somebody who's drunk. So for example, if a couple of lads come stumbling across in this particular location from Wetherspoons, again, they're going to stick out like a sore thumb compared to the typical sort of customers that come along. They're also massively assisted by a maglock system on the doors. So if they were trading a bit later, they can easily instigate that system so that the doors are closed so that you can make the assessment safely from inside to somebody who's outside without letting them into the store in the first place.
Part of your application, did you communicate to the local community that it's normal practice for Majestic Wine to go to 11 o'clock? Because obviously the objections we've got, and I've seen all the letters here, think that you're different from everywhere else?
We didn't communicate that. We're fine. We didn't communicate that proactively. Only in the correspondence. We weren't expecting a weight of representation when it came. We communicated that clearly and said, look, we intend to operate this store exactly the same as we do the local ones. In other words, we're not intending to trade until 11 p.m. every day.
Do you think there's a learning opportunity here for future applications, whatever you may do, that to tell the people what you normally do? I'm asking these questions because we're online. People, interested parties in Wimborne may be asking those questions. And I think it's a communication thing to tell what company policy is, how you operate, because all they can see is the application that's in front of them, that you're asking from 11 o'clock at night, which gets people's concern up.
I can't argue with that. Obviously the company were very surprised to receive the amount of resistance that they have. I strongly suspect that they will learn from that in terms of future applications, rather than just clarifying the situation afterwards.
So what do you think your normal opening hours, so should this licence be granted, what would your normal operating hours be for the average member of the public walking past or wanting to buy beer?
So the normal terminal hour will be 7 p.m. Mondays to Wednesdays, 8 p.m. Thursdays and Fridays, and 5 p.m. on Sundays and bank holidays. And generally speaking, just for the sake of clarity, although we apply from 8 a.m. in the morning, they generally open at 9 or 10.
Town Council came before you and wanted a special, wine tasting session with your best whatever wine you've got. You could facilitate that if this licence was granted, because you can go on past that closing.
That's the idea, is to be able to accommodate precisely that, and periods perhaps where there's unusually high demand, the obvious one being the run-up to Christmas, but we're generally only talking about a few days there.
I think Councillor Fry's just asked my question, but I was thinking about wine tasting sessions, but you did say that it was just for consumption off the premises. So I don't know quite how that would fit in, should anyone want to scrutinise what you did.
Yeah, I think if you've got an off licence, you don't need an on licence to do wine tasting because there's no sale at that point. Obviously, the idea of the wine tasting is that you or I go in, we taste a selection of wines, and then we think one of them's gorgeous, and we buy 6 bottles of it to take home. At that point, there's an off sale. So if you have, for example, a wine tasting which runs from 7 o'clock until 9 o'clock, and then people stand around for a while and think about it, and they want to buy 6 bottles of wine and take them home at 9:30 or 10 o'clock at night, then the licence as framed would enable us to do that.
Thank you. I just wanted to get that for the record because I knew it's about the sale. Thank you.
I've already made the point, but I'm looking at representation 6 here. As a resident living close to this property, I welcome Majestic Wines taking this property. But they do point out they've clearly done their research and looked online in your other stores in Poole, Dorchester, Lymington, Salisbury, Taunton, Southampton, Winchester, all close at 7 or 8 p.m. So I think there's a significant communication there in the application that's been missed. Thank you.
Thank you. Aileen, have you got anything you would like to ask? Okay, that's a no from Aileen. I've lost my place. Yeah, Mr. Wheeler.
No, I've just listened to what's been said. I think the opportunity that you pointed out to learn, we had outside here a conversation along those very same lines. We'd like and welcome any applications of this type to come to Wimborne Minster Town Council and have a conversation before they're submitted, and then, you know, we could avoid taking your time. But thank you for your for letting me speak.
Thank you, Mr. Wheeler. Is that everything you want to say? You haven't got a submission?
I don't have a submission over and above the submission that we made to the application.
Thank you. And I've got no questions for you, Mr. Councillor Wheeler. Has anybody else on the panel got any questions for Mr. Wheeler?
No, thank you, Chairman.
Mr. Wheeler, are you reassured by what you've heard here this afternoon in the conversation?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cushion. Would you like to ask Mr. Wheeler anything? That's a no from Mr. Cushion. Eileen, do you have anything you'd like to ask Councillor Wheeler? No. So I'm going to give parties a chance to sum up. This is quite a straightforward case as it happens. Mr. Wheeler, anything you'd like to say?
Nothing from me other than if we can stick to those opening hours as described, then I'm sure that the residents that have made the objections will be satisfied. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Cushion, you made a very good case and it was very succinct. Would you like to sum it up in a sentence for me, or are you happy we've heard everything?
Happy, thank you.
Thank you. Licensing team leader, would you like to make any comments?
No, thank you, Chair.
Very quick. Thank you, everybody. Is there anybody who'd like to say anything? I can see Les is very... Councillor Fry has got a question for you, Mr. Wheeler. I'm going to ask you. So, should the licence be granted, are you happy? Are you content that a licence until 11 p.m. would suit you and would suit your residents and the people that you represent? Are you happy that Majestic will not? Are you believing Majestic that they won't be open until 11 o'clock every night partying, and you're happy that they will be shutting at 7 or 8 p.m. as advertised?
Given the evidence that I have based online at the stores closing at the time that's been outlined for Wimborne, yes, I am.
Thank you. Okay, I think everybody has summed up. Is there anybody else? Anybody else got anything last thing to say? Okay, so I'm going to say thank you, everybody. It's a nice, quick, clean hearing. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for your patience at the beginning. We're sorry to keep you waiting, but as you know, our last session did run past the start time for this session. So I thank you for your patience, and I thank you for your clarity. Thank you. So the public part of the meeting will now conclude. We three, as the subcommittee, will consider our decision in private. We will have a legal advisor from Dorset Council with us. The decision of this subcommittee will be emailed to parties and available on the council's website as soon as practicable, and certainly within 5 days. There is a right of appeal. If you would like to appeal, it's 21 days from the date of notification of the decision. And if there were an appeal, it would be heard at Poole Magistrates Court. Let's hope it doesn't come to that. All right, thank you, everybody.